mode.
Hey everybody, Tom Foster here at Foster Web Marketing, and I am super excited to have my friend Mischelle Davis here with me today. Many of you probably already know her or know of her. She has quite a reputation, in a good way, Mischelle. It's a good reputation.
Thank you. I hope so. My mother will be happy.
Mischelle is a master of marketing, and she's one of the few people that is a better marketer than me, that's a big statement, Mischelle. She is the marketing director and COO of her husband's law firm in Seattle, Chris Davis, a hugely competitive market. That's the Davis Law Firm if you guys want to look it up. And it's the URL is injurytriallawyer.com. She is a former marketing director for Microsoft. She's been a marketing director for various businesses, all different kinds of tech businesses. A former model. She is very beautiful, of course. An entrepreneur selling her own organic baby food when her son Jackson was just born, which is a story in and of itself. She's done a lot of stuff. She doesn't stop or quit. She is tenacious and one of the smartest people I'm lucky enough to know, and she's been very helpful to me and this business. We met nearly 10 years ago at one of the first great legal marketing events and hit it off. Her firm became a client not long after that, after she had some big fight with Fine Law, which is another story in of itself too. Right?
We got lots of stories.
Yeah, and we've been working closely together ever since. She has her own marketing staff, Ian, running that, who's awesome. That's like your third marketing person, third or fourth marketing person.
Yeah. So I've had him a long time. He's awesome.
He's fantastic, and he has people that work for him. So you're doing all of it in-house, but of course you're managing everything, and you guys use DSS for all of it, and then other programs along with that, like Needles, and we'll talk a little bit about some of that stuff.
Do you know next year is my 10-year anniversary with the DSS?
That's what I was saying. 10 years, coming on 10 years. We can't thank Mischelle enough for the many features we now have in DSS and for her constantly improving the software and beating me up almost on a daily basis about stuff that needs to be done or fixed or enhanced. So I thank you in front of everybody because I do appreciate it, Mischelle, very much.
Well, and thank you for taking it so well when I smack you around about the stuff that I want.
So today I asked her to join us so she can share with you guys something very, very important, which is how to measure your ROI, your return on investment. And that's one of the things that Mischelle does very well, probably better than anyone else that I've worked with or known in any business or industry. This is a practice that Mischelle does very well. She has OCD about it, ADD, all of those, things, all those. So we got 30 minutes and a lot to cover. Now we have 27 minutes. So I'm going to let Mischelle do most of the talking because she's good at it. And we'll stick around for questions afterwards. So save them for the end if you can. Let's just hold off to the end. And we're recording this, and we will be providing this as a podcast once we're done digitizing it and putting it all together. So Mischelle, thank you very much for joining us.
Glad to be here.
It's been a while since we've done a webinar together, but actually as we were kind of talking about this and preparing for it, 30 minutes isn't going to cover everything that we need to cover. So we just decided that we're going to have another one next month. So this will be part one, and then we'll have part two next month because we have so much stuff to cover. And there's a surprise for those of you at the end that Mischelle has been so gracious to put together for everybody. So Mischelle, without further ado, tell us why you measure your ROI.
So we're wasting money if we don't, right? We're in business to make money. That's the whole point. And you know, going back to my previous lives in high tech, especially because a good bit of that was in the 90s, you know, during sort of the internet.com startup stuff. And so, you know, more than half of my, you know, although everybody likes to talk about Microsoft and that I was there after they went public. Most of my career was at these startups where we were having to raise money, go to venture capitalists, and so you have to prove everything. You have to constantly be, fighting for your life. And then even, at some place like Microsoft, you're having to fight constantly to get the marketing budget, the dollars, to prove, that you're going to invest that money wisely, and selfishly all that time too, because as a marketing person, own compensation was tied to sales performance. I had to do it, right? So I cared about the numbers, more than anything, right? And it's the same today. So we constantly measure. In the early days when I met you, we weren't measuring as much. We didn't have tools. When I came to help Chris, we didn't have tools in place to measure a lot of this stuff. And I know a lot of your solo law firm customers, they don't have tools to measure this stuff. They're like, potential client calls, they're still taking paper intakes, right? And they're not putting this stuff into a place where they measure it. But you were absolutely... What?
If they do that, I mean...
They do that. It's crazy. If you don't measure, then it's like predicting the weather and just going out and, is it going to rain today? Which way is the wind blowing? Or it's all on gut, right? I don't operate on gut. My gut, I have a good gut, I think, in general, but I've been shocked at how many times I thought something was going to be A and it turned out to be B, and I wouldn't have known if it wasn't for the data. It's all about the data, right?
Right. Data is king.
So when you're talking about, I don't know, can people see my screen, or are we just on video? Okay. So because when you're talking about making your plans for your marketing, the best predictor of future behavior is relevant past performance. And so, whether it's, when you get those million calls a month like I do from, these guys who say they have this lawyer advertising or that lawyer lead generation thing, like, how do you know if you don't know your own cost per lead or your ROI? How do you know which or if any of those opportunities are good, right?
That's a great point, because our guys, I know everybody on this call is inundated with those marketing vultures and those people that are promising you page one for such and such keywords, which is a very seductive thing, and we hear that all the time. That is one of the criteria that everybody focuses on, is page one for vanity keywords. I'm not saying that that's not important, but that's where they stop, and they don't look at everything else that they're doing. And just because you're on page one, that does not mean that you're getting the best cases and clients anyway, right?
Absolutely. I'm all about, I don't care if I'm on page 5 as long as I'm getting the great clients, right? Or, those companies that call you and they want to sell you leads or sell you a spot in some directory or whatever, right? Well, how do you know the value of that? And by the way, we just came up with a third webinar. I have a whole spreadsheet tool that when I get those calls from those dudes, I ask a ton of questions, I put the data in this tool I created, and then I decide right then if I think that they're worth it or not. Right? So, I track the data constantly, or the sales guy who calls you from some radio or TV station and says they have, whatever. It's how will you know? How will you know? Right? So, and I got to put on my granny glasses now to read the small type, but there's a ton of different buzzwords for all this stuff, data-driven business, predictive analysis, business intelligence, key performance indicators or KPIs, all this stuff. Whatever it is, the devil's in the data. And if you're not looking at the data, then how will you know, right? How will you know? So your question to me is, what kind of data do I track? So here's what I track. Actually, let's start off with what I'm not going to talk about today, right? Because you guys talk about this stuff all the time. We don't need to cover it. But I'm not going to talk about any of the Google Analytics stuff at all, unless I just have to mention it in passing about using that data with other data. You guys do a great job for your customers of putting on webinars about that stuff, or social media. So blah, blah, blah. We'll talk about that another call. Here's the stuff I track. When it comes to advertising or evaluating opportunities, I'm looking at the cost per lead or the cost per case. Or sometimes with advertising, I'll also be looking at a ratio. So for example, I might look at, and I don't think this is in the stuff I prepared, my little spreadsheets for you today, but we can do it another time. I want to know how many ads have to appear for how many people redeeming an offer or phone calls. So I'm not just looking at the cost, but what's my ratio? Is it 10 leads or 10 offers to every 20 TV spots or radio? So what's that ratio to, right? So I'm looking at it like a bunch of different ways.
Can we just back up a second and give us real quick a summary of the different ad vehicles that you're using? I mean, obviously you do the internet, you put content up on your website, and that's what Ian and his team does. Yep. But you also do TV.
We do TV, radio, and not all the time, but when, because I have so much good data, I'm doing it when I know I'm going to get better ROI, and when I get better ROI when there's fewer lawyers, and so once my competitors all start to get in a spot because they saw that I did, and it's, and then the value diminishes, then I just move, right? We do some pay-per-click, some retargeting, some social media. I mean, we do a little bit of everything. But what
do you buy keywords? Like, do you do that stuff? Do you buy leads?
Do I buy what? Leads? No, I don't need to. And I know, because I know what my cost per lead is, and I have my calculator for determining what their cost.
So that's what you're going to tell everybody today, so they can evaluate themselves if they're buying leads, whether those are working for you or not. Don't listen to the salesperson justify his existence. Do your own trust.
We almost need a whole other webinar on that, because I have a different tool for that. That's not the stuff that I showed you earlier for today. But that's, you got to look at that. How do you know if, let's say are you spending $10,000 or $100,000 a month on whatever it is, pay-per-click, TV, whatever. How do you know if it's working if you're not measuring, right? So, I mean, it's insane to me. So inside DSS, which, by the way, okay, so I love DSS. I mean, obviously, because I've been with you guys for 10 years. But there's a ton of stuff in there that feeds into all this content I get from different places, right? And that I use to analyze. So, the DSS lets me say how much content, there's a report of, how much content we put up of different types every month. Well, I'm looking at that and saying, okay, if we put up, I don't know, 5 pieces of content or 100, did it move the needle in terms of the visitors, right? People talk about, who should I get to write content? Can I pay, or should I pay somebody on the outside or the inside to do content? Well, I don't know. Let's look at your data. Are you able to move the needle when you put content on? I mean, a lot of people don't know.
And it's got to be good, relevant content. I mean, like, we beat them up about that all the time. Hey, show me that spreadsheet that you have about how you measure the value of your content. Like, you've got that one that where that people have contacted you because of DSS.
Yeah. So I'll look at. Let's just get into the spreadsheet.
Yeah, we're halfway through, Mischelle.
Oh my God, really? Okay, so this is one, so you can do an export in DSS of your contacts, and it'll tell you what page they were on when they did the contact form, right? The little mini contact form. So like if I go, maybe bring over our website, right? This contact form right here, right? And if you go into, like, I don't know, whatever your favorite page is here on our website, I'm talking about these contact forms. Did they fill out the mini contact form on the top or the side or the bottom? And what page were they on before they did this? So I can export that data from DSS, and then, and I can analyze it. And these are simple little, if you look right here, simple little calculations in Excel. So, oops, let me fix that. So I know for the time period that I exported that data for this, how many form submits I got, what percentage of overall form submits that represented, and then also, like home page, how often was the home page the page somebody visited right before they did a form submit? Like how important is the home page? And then I've got a combined number here. So then I sorted these, and so, you know, I know my home page and the contact us page have the highest performance of case submits. And then after that, practice area pages and library. Like, I know this.
Yeah, but
right?
look at, and then the other part of it is how you, and we talked about, and this I think is going to be in the next version, that part 2, which is how you connect those pages or those contacts to the value of a particular case. So that lead came in on this page. You're able to say, well, this lead that came in on this blog post brought us a $500,000 case.
Yep. Yeah, we got to talk about that on a future one.
Right.
For sure. But like for the time period of that all this data came in, which I didn't save the dates on here, and this isn't all of it. I just picked some random amount of time. But these were the pages that got the form submits, or right, and then of the practice area pages, these were the ones that got the, and I ranked them. Well, are these of the stuff I want or not? If I want more of these, if I want more commercial vehicle cases, right?
Right.
And this is a want, well, that's a problem. So, all right, then I might say, well, but what page? So, what pages are people on more when they submit? How to, you know, this is what I want. Or the sue the government pages. So this shows 25. Well, we get a lot of good sue the government cases, right? We got a couple of huge ones I know you've seen on TV, but most of the sue the government ones are crazy people.
Right.
So this is a problem that's my highest one. Or med-mal, I know that of the 600 med-mal potential client calls we got last year, we only accepted 1. So to me, that's a problem, right? You know what I'm saying? So I want to go look for, this tells me I've got work to do. That the higher value cases, the cases I want for this period of time, got the smallest, right?
Yes.
It tells me I've got work to do.
Yeah, it just means that, you know, you've got to put a different bait out there, new bait, replace the bait for the kind of leads that you're looking for. Maybe, you know, you want more of this commercial vehicle accidents, then what do you need to do? You need to step up on your content. You need to put some different advertising out there for those particular kinds of cases. But you wouldn't know that. You wouldn't, and that's the whole point, gang, is that she wouldn't know that unless she was measuring it and analyzing it. And you analyze this, you do this every month for yourself.
I do this every month, and if I have time mid-month, I'm doing it mid-month too. So in these, because this is one of the greatest things, I love this about DSS, so is that because you're telling me the pages people were on when they did stuff, right? So if I suddenly see, in fact, we did this, I'll have to look for it on the website and show you, but we did this, we saw that one of the pages that we were getting the most form submits on was about parking lot accidents, right? Parking lot accidents, those are minor fender benders. Those are low impact, low injuries, and we don't take those cases. So because we were looking at that data, right, and we knew that what percentage of those potential client, form submits were coming from those pages, we actually removed the form from that page, right? So this form that's in the sidebar on this one, we went and found these pages about parking lot accidents. We took this form off, and instead we put an offer on there for them to help themselves. And I guess I could run a search and find that page here.
Well, see that, well, while you're doing that, where we can show everybody, I just want to tell everybody the genius of that if you don't get it already. So she already identified a very popular page, but instead of like telling everybody to go below when they called up, talking, you know, about the parking lot thing that isn't worth Chris's time or any of the other.
It wasn't this one. It must have been another one. So it wasn't that one.
But you created an offer, a helpful offer, something to help them with themselves, but you're also keeping their information to put on your list to continue to market to with retargeting and newsletter and whatnot. So in case they do have a case down the road, or their friend or family or whatever has a case, they're going to refer that person or call you because you helped them once before, you're
Yep.
very kind, and they already have a relationship with you. So,
Well, and one thing about that parking lot, one thing, so see, I got a lot of parking lot pages, so I'd have to look here and find exactly which one it was. It wasn't happening on all the parking lot pages,
right.
It was just one particular one. And I don't want my intake people clogged with those cases that we know we're not going to take. So the other thing is, you know, I'm not wasting time doing this to all, oh, we got to do this to all the parking lot pages, right? We get surgical and go find that and fix that. Or one of the things from the report that we were looking at a second ago that we did, where did it go, is because of the med mal and the small percentage of those that actually turn into cases, our med mal pages, we took the contact form off of those and we drove those people to a survey to give us more information. And we're trying, because those are also lengthy on the phone, right? So we're driving them to give us more information over the website instead of picking up the phone and calling, so that we do not, you know, spending a bunch of time on those med mal calls when we should be talking to the next bridge collapse. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
So it's like you got to dig into that, and we're already down to like 10 minutes. I can't believe this, but so
All
if
right.
we look at some of these other things that we do. So like this is an example. I created a template for you guys. I put some dummy data in here. But at the very simplest level, what we look at every month is like how many website visitors did we get? How many TV or radio spots did we run? How much money did we spend? How many potential client calls did that turn into? And how many new clients did that turn into, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's like your high level. And then, so what's your cost per lead? If I'm spending this in this month on, oops, wait, here we go, this on TV and radio, and this is how many potential client calls I got, then what's my cost per lead?
Mm-hmm.
If I got this many potential client calls but I only got 17 new clients, well, what's my close rate? 7%. What's my cost per new client? And, you know, the numbers are actually way different than this, but like you want to dig into that.
What is your goal for that? What are your goals, cost per lead, and what is PC to client? What is that again?
PC to potential client to client close rate. So how many?
Yeah, do you
percent?
have a goal?
Well, obviously we would want it to be higher. One of the things, and as I told you, I tried to do a simple one for today because I have my real one so much bigger. But I want to be.
This is not her real one, by the way, guys. She's not going to.
My real one would melt people's brains, and then like let's just take baby steps. So, but the real one, when you were talking about, and now the DSS brilliantly offers this, where you can rate the leads. Well, my close rate is only as good as the leads. So another whole thing is rating the leads that are coming in. Were all 236 great leads? If all 236 were great leads, then I want this number to be 100%. Right?
Yes.
But if 50% of them are not great leads, or the person wasn't injured, well, then this number is going to be different. So generally speaking, because there's always a certain amount of junk in there, it's going to range anywhere from, if you're just looking at the high level, the number of leads and the number of new cases, it's generally between 7 and 10%, right? But it's only as good as the quality of those leads, right? And if I have a month, like I had a month a couple months ago, I can't remember if we mentioned this already or it was when we were talking earlier, but I had a month where like 2 months after hiring a new intake person, a new case investigator, I had a 4% PC to client close rate month, which I've never had a month that low. Well, if I wasn't tracking that, I wouldn't know that that intake person was horrible at her job, and even though there were good cases in there, she wasn't closing them and getting them in. So we had to let her go, right? My best people will sometimes get like, 12 to 15% close rate if the leads are good, right? If the leads are. But if I'm not tracking this, then I don't know. It's Moneyball. If you've ever seen the movie Moneyball, how will you know? It's just, oh, well, I guess it's summer or it's bedtime or whatever, that's the way it goes sometimes. BS. It never goes that way sometimes. If you are tracking year over year, which I have data now, really good solid data going back to the beginning of when I started using foster web marketing, but then when we started using a case management system and tracked every lead through that, I've got really, really good, like 6 or 7 years worth of data. So I know if a month is off. Like I totally know.
Can you give us an example, and this is probably too broad, but just because we only have a few minutes left, of where this helped you get a really great case?
Where this helped us get a really good case? Well, so if you look at, well, like the pedestrian ones tend to be really, really good, right? So, you know, because the injuries are high, the fault is, you know, usually the pedestrian's not at fault. If I didn't have this data and I wasn't tracking where my leads were coming from and what pages people were on and what content was bringing people into the website, right, then I wouldn't be putting out, and I mean it is general, but I wouldn't be putting out the right bait for that.
Right, and so by being able to interpret the data of just like what you said, the content that people are reading and what they're reading informs your other marketing, right?
It informs everything.
Ads, your radio ads, what kind of offers you're putting out there, retargeting, all your social media, correct? I mean,
Right. Well, and knowing if I've got, like we were looking at a few minutes ago, all these parking lot cases, right? Well, let's say let's say we're looking at pedestrian crosswalk blogs. Well, which one of those blogs, if they all get, you know, 100 visits a month, which one converts more? Which one does people fill out the contact form for most? Well,
and all that is in DSS.
All that is in DSS, right? And okay, so once I figured out which one, you know, all things being equal in terms of the traffic that they get, then why is this one getting more conversions than the other one? Well, I guess I better look at that. What's different? And then, you know, you kind of play the, oh, you know, one of these kids is doing his own thing, you know, and you side by side compare. How do you, right? But, you know, if you're, and the data's all in DSS. And it's not in, I was thinking this morning, Tom, you know, because a bunch of your competitor products are built on the WordPress platform. That stuff isn't in WordPress. I can't do these reports in WordPress and tell me all that, right?
Well, yes, because this is built for lawyers and doctors to measure.
Exactly. Right. So when I think about, you know, your competitors and people are like, oh, well, you know, WordPress or whatever. Well, that's like putting a rubber band engine, you know, on your website to have. If you can't reach in and get more data about what people are visiting and what they're doing and which ones actually convert, then, and the DSS lets me do all that, right?
Well, yes. And
now you got the brilliant lead tracking thing in there and the lead rating thing in there. Oh my God, what data I'm going to get from that as we migrate toward using that more and more. It just blows my mind.
Well, and it's and thanks for saying all that. And no, Mischelle is not on FWM payroll, okay? So
no.
Get a commission. You know, she just makes, but she's been, for the last 10 years, been a big part of what makes DSS better and better and better. So a lot of this stuff that she's getting is stuff that she asked us to put in. And that's what we've always built it to be for you guys, just to make it better and better for you. It started out just as a content management, just throw content up. And it has just evolved over the years to be more of a complete marketing solution. All right, we got like 1 minute left.
I know. So this one thing I got to tell you though here too that is super important is because we use offers, right? You know, and people who respond to our ads or visit our website, we're trying to get them to fill out offers, even if they don't fill out a mini contact form. We get so much information from that. I know geographically where my leads are coming from, geographically where those people live. If I want to open another office, right, I know where those are because of the great information in the DSS, right?
That's brilliant.
And, you know, I mean, it's just amazing stuff. So, you know, show you some of the other little spreadsheets I pulled together for you too. Like, you know, I'll look at, you know, number of potential clients on any given day, and how, you know, what that means in terms of the average per week. You know, my husband, and he does this all the time, comes into the office, it's slow today. I can look at it and go, no, our average number of calls today is X, and our average for the week is Y, and we've had, however many calls today. Maybe slow for you, Davis, but it's not slow for us, on the internet. I mean, like, how would I know if I didn't have all that information in here and weren't pulling it? And I get it all from the DSS.
He was pretty tough on you about that stuff.
Oh my God, that's the main reason I have to keep track of this stuff. Or this one, this is all from the DSS. This is like the date people either filled out a form or responded to an offer, right? And then I do a little analysis of the hour of the day. So for whatever period of time this was in 2012, I knew exactly what hours of the day I was most likely to get calls or offer responses, right? Well, how does that correlate to whether or not I have ads running? I mean, it's huge, huge. If I've got ads running in the morning and all this is happening in the afternoon, something's wrong. Like, I just don't know how you make decisions if you're not looking at this stuff this way.
Well, okay, now you are obviously super duper advanced and like a sorceress when it comes to all this stuff, which is fantastic. And what you've done, though, is that you've dumbed down a lot of your stuff, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but you've taken a lot of your stuff in more digestible pieces for anybody that's just getting started, that wants to do this but just doesn't know where to start. And we're going to give this to, you're going to give us some of this stuff to give to the people on the call.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you this Excel spreadsheet with all this stuff in it, and I've already done all the math formulas. So, you'll go in and you'll put, like, if you're doing radio ads, you'll get from your radio ad rep this stuff and you'll just plop it in, right? Or if you're not, then you'll delete all this stuff. Or, you'll put the your open cases data in here, right? And all this stuff will just populate. All you need is the date it opened. All this other stuff will populate for you. I'll mark in yellow the fields you can change, and then it'll do this for you, right?
Well, thank you. That's going to be awesome. And Molly will put this together and send that out with this. And Mischelle, I'm sorry that we're out of time because we could talk about this forever. We had a half-an-hour conversation even before we started this call.
I know, it's crazy, and look at all this other stuff we had, what we could have covered.
Let's do it next, or let's set up another call and put it out there. That'll be about intake, and it'll be the next level, because to me, and I know that you agree with me, this is the most important thing. Everybody focuses on the wrong thing, and this tells you how fast you ran the race, and that's
it tells you what to focus on. That's the whole thing. When you say people focus on the wrong thing, how do you know what's right or wrong if you're not looking at this, right?
Okay, so let's see if there's any questions, Molly. Guys, if you have any questions real quick, we were trying to keep this to 30 minutes. If not, oh well. But we're going to send these spreadsheets out that Mischelle has put together. I know that Mischelle has her own, you have your own mastermind group that you do, and
yep, and I also have a little academy I put on once a quarter at super private, like 4 or 5 firms,
right.
And where we really dig into the back end of stuff. And I'll do another one of those in February, and I'll have details on that on MischelleDavis.com. And by the end of the week, I think we're still trying to nail down our dates. But when you said people, focus on the wrong things, mostly they go to other attorneys' websites who they think are competitors, and they focus on whatever that dude's doing, right?
Right.
Yeah. That dude probably isn't even measuring like this. So you're cherry picking it. I mean, it's crazy. The devil's in the data.
Very good. Well, Mischelle, thank you so much for joining us. I love you. You're fantastic. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep beating me up. So we can make.
As long as you keep building what I need, I'll be happy.
Very good. Okay, so we'll get this stuff out, and we'll let you know about the next one, the next webinar that we'll put on. We'll probably record it and make it a little bit longer so we can fill in all this stuff. This webinar will be available at podcast.fosterwoodmarketing.com. You can go to iTunes, get it from there. You can download it, listen to it whenever you want, tell your friends. But once again, Mischelle, thank you so much for everything. Thank you for joining us, and thanks to everybody that joined us on the call. Have a great October. Have a great Halloween. Take care.